If you've been running PCONC this league, this is the video you've been waiting for. Hands down, my favorite version of Poison Concoction I've ever played. Chaos explosions everywhere, Tri-Curse nukes for massive single target bursts, and defenses powerful enough where I simply stop reading T17 map mods. What's up YouTube, it's your boy AP, and today we're diving into my endgame Poisonous Concoction of Bouncing Pathfinder. This version pops off, and the video is packed with content focused entirely on improving your character, whether you're currently on a low, medium, or high budget. I've broken everything into timestamp sections so you can grab upgrades one at a time and slot them straight into your build. The goal here isn't just to copy my setup, it's to give you a complete upgrade toolkit for taking your Pathfinder to the next level. Now we've reached Giga Clear potential thanks to permanent chaos explosions, scaled through the tree, and then amplified further through Pathfinder's proliferation for that smooth, screen-wide, instant deletion. Pathfinder has never felt better. Single target has been overhauled with a Tri-Curse Arcanist brand setup that more than doubles our damage. One click drops all curses. Think of it as a nuke button for tanky T17 bosses. And you only use it in those rare cases. Our explosions handle everything else. It's comfortable in almost every type of content, though I still recommend not farming uber bosses. The build shines while moving, not standing still, which is a requirement for DPSing down those bosses. Looking ahead, I'll be releasing a Viper Strike of the Mamba pivot guide. It trades some of the explosive clear for easier uber bossing. Now I've held off on this because uber bossing this league just isn't profitable. It's mostly chase drop gambling. And the explode tech we're using here outmaps almost anything, even Mamba. So my recommendation, if you're enjoying PCONC, keep enjoying it and use all the tech I'm about to share to push your build to a whole new level and make it an insanely tanky, satisfying map blaster. Then when the Mamba video drops, you can decide if the swap is the right thing for you. Speaking of extreme tankiness, this build is similar to another character, and no, I'm not talking about my Pathfinder. The ultimate Death Knight is back. This guy's the emotional sports skeleton for tactical RPGs. He takes hits for the team, drops shield and healing for allies, and even heals himself when enemies are healing. He provokes, fears, and generally ruins legendary lives, and you can grab him for free right now using code UDKING if you're a new player. My favorite part of Raid Shadow Legends is how chill it is to run on the side. I love turning on the auto battler at 2x speed mode and letting my champions level up and collect loot while I'm mapping or editing videos. We're doing it as we speak. I like the constant sense of progression even when I'm focused on something else, and it runs super smooth on both PC and mobile, so you can literally play it anywhere. If you haven't started playing yet, what are you waiting for? Check my link below or scan the QR code to get bonuses only through my link. A free legendary champion of your choice and 2 free epics. You instantly unlock Ultimate Galek from the Orcs. He reduces turn meter like crazy. Then at level 15, you'll unlock Zargala, one of the strongest Force Affinity supports and the perfect partner for Galek. New players can pick one legendary promo code: TREEHUGGER, GETALICE, DESERTQUEEN, MONKEYKING, DEMONSLAYER, or UDKING. Only one works, so choose wisely. I went for UDKING because his buffs are OP. These bonuses show up within 48 hours after you download through my link or QR code. If you grab it from the App Store directly, you will not get the pack, so use the link first. Look for me under anime_princess and join the clan if you want to compare my bad RNG. As for defenses, we've really beefed up the character to be just like UDKING. We've been running every single T17 mod with this setup, obviously not all of them deathless, but certainly not burning all the portals, so it's been holding up really well. If you want to make the character safer, I do have a regex command in chat. Type !T17 on Twitch to filter out the truly dangerous mods, and then it's just !regex for the regular T16 mods. So for those defensive layers, we're running Progenesis combined with Tides of Time, which is a combo that provides unparalleled survivability, especially on Pathfinder. If you don't have Progenesis, which is by far the most expensive part of this setup, just run Taste of Hate. It's the next best option, and it's practically free. We're evade capped at 95% with Vulgrace active, and yes, you should be pressing Vulgrace preemptively when entering risky situations. Flesh and Stone helps mitigate melee hits, and there's also a graft section later in the video where I'll explain how to use the league mechanic to further boost defenses. The Doppelganger Guy's body armor drastically reduces incoming hit damage and even provides protection against dots. We're also spell suppression capped, have endurance charges, multiple overlapping mitigation layers. Long story short, it's tanky enough to yeet yourself into T17's blind, no map reading required. And obviously, if you're trying to get efficient leveling, you should use the regex tool. Alright, let's jump in game and break down each tech section one at a time. I'm going to start things off by going over the lead mechanic, which is the grafts. Now I'm using an Ul graft primarily for the passive side of it. This gives us additional fizz damage reduction, which is nice, and it also gives us damage over time multiplier, which is the best way to scale damage that you can get on grafts. In fact, it's one of the best ways to kill damage, period, for poison builds. You could also get increased maximum life on the passives. There's a lot of decent things, but I'd go for mainly the damage over time multiplier. Now, as for the active portion of this, it is not entirely useless. It is a 4-second cooldown with a buff that gives us a ton of life recovery rate. We already have so much life recovery rate, but it is nice to boost our flask even further. But the real defensive upside of the grafts is from this tool graft. Tool graft cannot really get much in terms of the passives. However, the active is pretty insane. It has a cooldown of 6 seconds, which you can reduce to 4 seconds if you do get increased cooldown recovery rate, which I do have. And then it gives you a buff that lasts 4 seconds, which for me is blocking almost 2,000 damage. So that's basically permanent uptime can block 2,000 damage. The catch here is you do need to apply exposure to an enemy for this to trigger. And we don't benefit from exposure. However, I am using a spell suppression mastery, which inflicts exposure onto enemies when we suppress their damage. We don't have any spell block, so every single spell is damaging us, which means you're always going to have a reliable source of preserving stillness. This is incredibly powerful. And yeah, we have the active here and the passive here, as well as a little bit of active side as well. Now, next up, flasks. I have mentioned in the past that the only thing you really care about is how large the number is on your flask. For me, it's 5,346, which is pretty high for a flask. Now, how do we get it that high? You need to roll saturated on the prefix. Mine actually is min rolled. Saturated can roll 65 to 70, and I do believe it's item level 81 or possibly 82 flask to roll that. You could double check on Crafts of Exile. And yeah, ideally it would be 70% because that's going to be the highest. And then when you corrupt a flask, it can go up 10% or down 10%. So on a default 20 quality flask, the best you can get is 30%. The way I got 35% is I bought a flask that already had over 20% quality, because flasks can technically drop up to 30 quality. Now 30 quality flasks are pretty expensive, so I was using 26%, and then we just alt spam until we get saturated. And if you do want the corrupted blood immunity, after you get the prefix, you just annul the suffix, and then you can go to the menagerie, and there's a craft on there that it's called sealing, and sealing will give you corrupted blood on the suffix. And after that, honestly, you just have to vol it and pray. I crafted a lot of flasks, and the ones that didn't go up to this high, I just sold. And I think I still made money selling the bricks because they were still pretty good. People will still want a flask that's like 27, 28% quality, but I was truly going for the highest quality possible. And because PCONC scales so well off of that number, you will drastically scale your damage if you're able to craft these giga flasks. Next up, Brutal Restraint Timeless Jewel. This jewel can give us some pretty crazy upsides if you get a good one. And the only thing that matters here is the number. The boss after the number affects the keystone, but we're not even going to click on the keystone. So my number at 3681 gives me, it gives you a benefit for every single large passive. So on ballistics, I'm getting the additional benefit of onslaught on kill. So now I've just dropped my silver flask. Doesn't matter, I still have onslaught. And replenishing remedies, I'm getting 25% chance to gain Alchemist Genius when you use a flask. This is a really, really, really good buff for us. It gives us 20% flask charge gained as well as 10% increased effect of flask. It is so hard to get generic effect of flask boosts, and every single little bit of effect is making this Progenesis even crazier. We're also getting some smaller buffs like 10% increased flask charges gained, 5% movement speed, 4% increased maximum life. But when you're searching for one of these, you really should care for the onslaught on kill as well as the Alchemist Genius buff. And I do have a video on my channel which goes over how to search for timeless jewels. It is already in the PCONC/Mamba playlist, but I will also just show you right now how to do it. So you go to find Timeless Jewel, and you need to have your path of building configured properly, although I suppose you could just use mine in the video description because that is configured properly. And you're going to want to search Brutal Restraint, and you're going to want to pick the keystone. So technically, I'm doing it on Supreme Ego. You could also look for Perfect Agony, and that might give you some other options because most people will probably be doing the same as me. And then filter nodes enables this option to exclude nodes you do not have allocated, because we don't really care if you're going to get Alchemist Genius on some like bad node that's not even spec'd. We want to get it on the nodes that are already spec'd. So you're going to check that, and you need to choose what you're looking for. So I'm going to choose Onslaught, and I'm going to choose Alchemist Genius. And as you can see, you can read through the list. There are other good stuff on here. I just think these are the two best ones. And it's going to say like 100, and you actually need to change the last thing to 1. And this means it's going to look for one of each. If you don't do this change, you're going to find some with double Onslaught or double Alchemist Genius, and there's no advantage of having 2 of them. So you see here now it says 1 and 1. This means this is providing both of them. And this is the one I'm using because I like the other buffs as well. But as you scroll down, there is like a good chunk that provide at least these 2 buffs. And then you just copy trade URL, and you paste it in, and you can pick one up. Yeah, simple as that. It's not too tricky to find a really good one, and it provides so much benefits. It also gives us dexterity on the small nodes, which is meaningful because then we can tattoo more of the dex nodes into other things. Next up, we should touch on the curses. So I am using Arcanist Brand to cast 3 curses: Despair, Punishment, and Tempt Chains. So when I press Arcanist Brand, it is going to latch onto the boss, and it's going to slowly alternate between all 3 curses. We only have a curse limit of 1 naturally. However, we are using Anathema, which has a line, your curse limit is equal to your maximum power charges. Now, this may seem confusing to some people because we don't even have power charges. However, every single character implicitly has a maximum of 3 power charges by default. So this will give us implicitly up to 3 curses without having to get this really rare stat of you can apply an additional curse. Now we just get 3, and it only costs a ring slot. And it might be hard to fix the res for this. I'm using Wine of the Prophet just to get some of these div card buffs and a little bit of rarity. But I would advise using a Bismuth Flask to easily fix the res of losing your rare ring. It's kind of a meme using this flask. I mean, the buffs are fun. This is a good flask. But the way I'm fixing my res is through a corruption on the Fury Valve and a corruption on the Anathema. And that's just not something the average person can do. And I was using the Bismuth Flask at first. I was able to be fortunate enough to find these on trade, so we swapped into that. And I guess we can talk about the Explode tech as well, although I'm not really going to explain it. There is a video on my channel that goes over how we have permanent Explode. It is by using Embrace Madness, and you do have to craft a shield using a strength essence in order to fulfill the requirements of permanent uptime on this. So I'll probably put a picture of what the thumbnail looks like on screen, and you can just find it on my channel. It's a very recent video. And the Explode tech is core to this build. You need to be doing it, in my opinion. All right, I think that's most of the interesting stuff. We could go over the tattoos and then look at my gear one piece at a time. As for this passive tree, light immunity and chaos damage, incredibly powerful. It scales our damage really high, and it also scales the explosions from these boots. So this has so much upside. It's mandatory if you can afford it, and it's coming down in price. What is it? It's like 7 div now, maybe even cheaper. We already talked about the Brutal Restraint. For the Watcher's Eye, the best offensive mod is evade attack hits while affected by Grace. The best offensive mod is damage over time multiplier affected by Malevolence. And then there's some other good modifiers like attack speed affected by Precision. If you go for haste, there's a lot of good haste modifiers. You can just search the trade site for every single modifier for each one, and if you get one of these with another secondary modifier, it's going to be pretty nice. You could opt for a large cluster with 2 follow-through mediums, and you'll have a lot more damage. I just didn't bother with it because these explosions are hard carrying so much. For the tattoos, I unspec'd the avoid stun, these 3 nodes, and I just have, I believe, 7 tattoos for avoid being stunned. I'm also getting some cold res on the tattoos because it was really hard to fix all the res when I took off my res ring, so doing it through tattoos. If you have extra dex, which technically I think I have a little bit of extra dex before I can't meet my requirements, you could also get, there's one tattoo that improves your life flask, and that's quite handy. Life recovery from flask, this one, very nice, and it costs nothing. As for the gear, Tides of Time belt is mandatory if you have a Progenesis because it gives you 25% increased effect of their Progenesis. This is already by far the best defensive flask, and you can boost it incredibly far with Tides of Time. If you don't have Progenesis, as I said in the intro, swap in Taste of Hate. It is also an extremely good flask. Now I'm just turn off my webcam for a second. I am using 2 life flasks because it is pretty much impossible to maintain your life flask if you don't, if you're pressing it. And I am pressing the life flask because, you know, we're scaling the recovery so high. And you lose half your damage if you have no charges. So you need to have charges in your flask. That's not negotiable. This helmet I bought for cheap off a trade. It's just resistances, life, evasion, going for mana reservation efficiency as well as reduce mana cost of attacks in the implicit there. The shield, we just crafted this with a strength essence. Something you could do actually that I'm not doing is you could get avoid ailments in the suffix. It can go up to 35%. I might have sold all of mine. Do I still have any? Here. Maybe I don't sell this one. So this one is 35% chance to avoid ailments. And then on our tree, we have a bunch of avoid ailments down here. And there is a jewel on that you can buy on trade, and it's not expensive, and it will give you 50% avoid ailment. So you can easily get ailment immune. The jewel is called, it's very cheap. You can scroll down really far. It's 65 chaos, ancestral vision. This gives you 50% if you are spell suppression capped. So it's 50 plus 8, 12, 16, 20, right? That's already 70. So you only need to get 30 on the shield, and I have 34. I haven't done that out of laziness, but actually I probably should do that. We should swap this shield and get the jewel. The problem is I'm going to need another jewel slot, so maybe this will push me to get the large cluster with 2 mediums, because then I will get the actual jewel slot there. Otherwise, I could just go up here for 3 points. So yeah, that is something to do that I'm not doing. Anathema, I already talked about this. Beacon of Madness, there's the standalone video on Explode, and it's the entire reason why we use this. So you gotta watch that video. Doppelganger. The role of the less fizz and chaos damage taken while staying does matter. So I have 39, it can go up to 40, and it really does matter to get as high as possible. So if yours is low, just know you are a lot less tanky. And you could obviously get corruptions on this. I don't have any corruptions. The glove, the build by default has 95% chance to hit, or chance to poison. So I'm fixing the last 5% on the glove and also getting Chaos Dot multi in the implicit, which is a lot of damage. Other than that, it's just, you know, it's just fixing my stats and giving me life and evasion. Trail Sting, as mentioned in a previous video. You care about the chance to inflict additional poison, try and get that 40%, and then use Fizz and Chaos Catalyst to boost it up to 48%. And this is an incredible amount of damage. And yeah, that basically sums up this character. Very, very comfortable, very fun. The Chaos Explosions just completely make the build. I love these boosts. Hope y'all are enjoying the league so far. Obviously, stay tuned for much more videos coming soon. And if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment, subscribe. It helps me out with the algorithm. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Remember to scan the QR code or click the link in the description to get the epic ultimate Galek starter pack for Raid Shadow Legends.